The following is the Legacy Africa Founders Journal, originally written at 3:17 on a Friday, 27th of February 2026. And this is being recorded at 6 a.m. Monday, 10th of August 2026. At the time, I didn't know how the story would end, and this is what I wrote. Moro Ndim. Contract is acceptable. 10 to 20% on all deals I source and close, as well as shares and profit based on KPIs. Equity options exist, and real equity was also mentioned as a real possibility in the next 3 to 6 years. Certainly, by the next time we speak, that will be sealed. High chance we're going to the city. However, the materials, banners, and that are delaying and may not be here in time. Say that to say we're properly getting stuck in. Legacy Hub is here and quietly gaining traction. I'm brainstorming a few offers while we wait for omit name to sign the contract, as well so we can push the legacy tour, rack up these leads for the bigger offers that we're working on. Licensed guy says we're still on month end. We graduate in April. All that being said, I echo that it is God's plan ultimately. A lot of things I planned fell through and made room for these bigger blessings. I'll remain true to this. When you don't know what to do, build capacity. I'm open to formal education if opportunities come up. I'm also perfectly content with grabbing the bulls by the horns and generating serious net profits in both businesses, whichever comes first and seems to be most aligned with God's will. We'll chat again next week, brother. I'm here with you, and I know you are here with me, counting on me. I love you. Man, so to sort of reflect back on this, it is my first time reading this since February when I wrote it. And so I can provide a little bit of insight. This is the 6th entry. And as such, there's still a lot of naivety that you hear in this. At the time, I don't think I even knew what equity meant, for real. you know, it's such an interesting thing that we chase this elusive thing, especially as people who learn about the entrepreneurship space and things that go on. Equity sounds like this thing that, man, if you don't have equity, what are you doing? What are you there for? Why participate if not for equity? In retrospect, also I was going into this with the mindset of I know that whatever I negotiate in terms of equity now, I'm negotiating from a place where I lack leverage, right? Where or according to the person I was signing the deal with, I'm more replaceable than they are in this situation. And I knew that using my skill set, which is my primary skills are marketing and sales, so using my primary skill set, I could very easily become the irreplaceable part of the equation, as well as my business acumen. The more the more hit my methodologies and prove that they work, the more control you would naturally want to give me, because I'm bringing home the bacon, right? And so I knew that at the end of the day, well, whatever it was discussed and signed on there was just going to be the beginning, and then we continue on from there, and we continue to elevate, right? Um, and so yeah, it was acceptable. It was acceptable at that time, considering the lack of leverage that I had. That was basically a sales commission, like basic commission on sales, and then also like sharing in the overall revenue generated. Um, I learned a very important lesson from this. Like reflecting on this time, I learned maybe the most important lesson that I continue to have to learn, and I continue to be reminded of, And it keeps manifesting itself in different ways throughout my life in terms of who I collaborate with. Um, and so the ultimate thing that I learned from this was okay, 10 to 20% and 5%, or what was the equity, like 15, 20%, something like that to start off. But obviously vested over a couple of years, whatever. That that's decent. Especially, for example, if anyone were to get that in my company, and I'm giving them those percentages of future earnings based on this at the third, that's that's decent, bro. That's more than decent. That's generous, right? But 15 to 20% of nothing is nothing. And so by that I mean the major lesson that I learned from this time in my life, from this contract, from having that conversation, and what has come from it, is at the end of the day, it's all on you. Meaning, I really had believed sincerely that when this contract hits, my life is going to change. And what I realized was, oh wait, the contract hit, everything's in place, and it's still on me to make this money, to make this happen, to make these deals, to figure out the market, figure out what the market wants, etc. Right? And so you begin to step back and reflect, and you realize, like, oh, okay, it was that shiny object syndrome, right? Which is, okay, I have legacy. Legacy is doing its thing. It's getting traction. Boom, 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 boom. But at the same time, I'm looking at this other thing, and I'm like, man, I could get into this deal with this multimillionaire right now, and I'll be on, will be on. They're gonna connect me to like their sources and like their people, and this thing's just gonna take off and go to the moon, right? But in reality, it's like, and this was the lessons, when a person has made their money outside of the deal that you guys are interacting in now, their success in that other thing doesn't necessarily mean success in this thing, especially when a person is the singular CEO, the decision maker, the rainmaker of multiple businesses. That just doesn't work. It just doesn't. And people talk about like multiple streams of income, and raising two businesses at the same time, and Elon did it. It's like, bro, you're not Elon. By the time Elon was 20 something, he had already exited for multi millions. um, by the time he had gotten to that Tesla and SpaceX situation where he split the money half and half between both, and both of them blew up, and one's worth trillions. Do you get what I'm trying to say? By the time those types of things were happening, he had already had massive successes previously. He is the exception, not the rule. Most people, in most of their lives, start from young ages. They pick one thing, they get excellent at that one thing, and then they pour into other cups from an investment perspective. And so, for example, if the contract was, or if the situation was, listen, let's do this thing. You're going to be the primary decision maker. You're the rainmaker. You can hire people under you. Like, there has to be a core decision maker and a core mobilizer and mover and person that's pouring time, money, effort, resources into this thing, besides the person that is preoccupied. And so we actually went into this deal and we were all preoccupied. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the reason why it never really went as far as it could have, is because we were all preoccupied. Like, I had my business on the side. All the people that I was partners with also had other things going on, and other things they were relying on. And no, this was no one's sole thing that they were focused on. And you learn very quickly that that is a mistake within itself. That there's a much different way to approach business that is more appropriate, right? And so, yeah, whenever I reflect on this right here, it also manifested itself when it comes to who you form partnerships with. Because at the end of the day, I had to kind of step away from a partner of mine recently, that was not involved in this deal, but was more on the legacy side. And we'd done so much together and we pushed so much together. But I had to step away. Why? Because it's like, well, you're so invested in this other thing that when I need, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't give me what I need, and I can't fairly ask you to leave what you're working on behind. And that was the thing. That was the thing that makes you realize, like, oh, okay, there is this really genuine war on talent, where if you want people to focus on your thing, you're gonna have to compensate them for it. And there's no such, even if they wanted to focus solely on your thing, but then they also have to work 9 to 5, and they're also, going to school still, and also doing this and doing that. There's only so much focus and so much bandwidth that is available in the human mind. And if you want a share of that bandwidth, you're gonna have to be willing to compensate people for it, especially when it's your dream and your vision and your thing, right? You're going to have to be willing to give up certain levels of control when it comes to certain things and certain topics and certain whatevers. And you also have to be willing to fund it in some way, shape, or form. You have to be willing to, even if it's not fund like with capital, fund with relationships, fund with networking, fund, like, pour into this thing if you want it to grow. Um, but I wasn't in the leadership position at that time, and I probably wasn't as older and wiser. This was a couple of months ago, by the way. It's August. That was in February. So yeah, you can do the math on that. um, so it very realistically was a moment in time that kind of taught me a lot. It also applied from a client perspective. There were clients that I do marketing and sales strategy for white collar services, and so there was a client that I was engaged with, and we ended up not piloting a certain project that would obviously have netted a lot for the both of us. And the reason why we didn't pilot that is because they had other businesses to tend to, not within themselves, but because they were married, their partner also had businesses. And so we ended up not piloting that project for that reason. Again, it's this thing manifesting itself of, oh, okay, people have limited bandwidth. People who have multiple things that they're looking at, trying to seed, trying to grow, trying to fund at the exact same time, will eventually have competing priorities. That's just the nature of the game. Is eventually priorities will compete, right? And so this was the first situation that had made me aware of that, and so I'm very super grateful for it. Yeah, I talked about the Legacy Hub. Yeah, Legacy Hub was getting up and going. I wanted to go on something known as that I dubbed the Legacy Tour. That would end up being the first domino in a legendary turn of events. And so very appreciative of that. Yeah, the license guy month end. I'll talk about that story when, because I'm sure I'll write about it later. I said we graduate in April. All that being said, God's plan, man. And the when you don't know what to do, build capacity is something that has carried me so far. It's carried me up until this point. And I'm still going, and I'm still grinding, and I still build capacity. Like, I'm still ultimately doing that, which is like, what when you don't know what to do, build capacity means, if you don't know what you're gonna do tomorrow morning, or if you don't know what you're gonna do tomorrow, get a good night's sleep, because at least your brain will be fresh and you'll be able to operate from a fresh perspective. If you don't know what to sell, build an audience along, connect with people, do things for people. If you don't know what kind of service or product you're gonna make, network. Connect with the kind of people that you believe you are going to be best suited to serve, or the kind of people that you believe you ought to be served. Connect with them so long. Connect with them, do things for them, find out from them what you could do for them. You're building capacity. And so it may not be the case that you're going to have the quickest turnaround, but here's the crazy thing. You could take 10 years to build a $2 million, like USD, a year business, and you would be further along. Like, you could fail for 10 years straight. On the 10th year, you build a $2 million a year business, and you'll be further along than someone who made $100,000 a year every single year while you were on zero. Why? Because during that 10 years, you were building capacity. If during that 10 years you're grinding your ass off and you're trying to find product market fit, you're trying to find the correct acquisition channel that you can sustainably get these kind of people, like on a consistent basis, Like you're trying to find your perfect avatar for what you're trying to do. If you spend those years trying to nail the basics, like mastery is just the basics done at a very high level or on a consistent basis. So people tend to think just because they know and understand the basics conceptually that they have mastered the basics. Like, no, the difference is that masters can do the advanced stuff. They can do some cool stuff that you maybe haven't learned about, and they've forgotten things that you're yet to learn. Sure, but what makes them masters is the fact that they do the basics every single time without fail. That's what makes them masters. And so you understand those basics, you understand what your one avatar is, your one channel, your one product is going to be. You find that product market fit so that by the time you hit the market, you take off and it doesn't make sense. It's like the difference between $1 million business and a $10 million business is the foundation. Is what did you do in the very beginning? Did you spend more time? The difference between 10 million, 100 million, 100 million, billion is how much time did you spend actually making sure that the foundation was wide enough, was deep enough? How much time did you actually spend making sure that you are building the correct thing? You're going in the correct direction. You understand the things you need to understand about the market in order to build something that is going to be successful and long term is going to serve the people that you're building it for. Is going to solve the problems that those people have the best. That's the difference between those different magnitudes of businesses. And the quicker you decide, I got it, boom, the lower you're going to cap yourself unless you've fully grasped and understood what the landscape is, who the other players are in the game, what they're providing, what you can do different. Can you do it faster? Can you do it more conveniently? What are you bringing to this equation that is going to ultimately differentiate you consistently? What's your competitive moat going to be, and can you protect that moat? That is the difference. And that is what you achieve from building capacity. And that's why building capacity and focusing on that becomes so important ultimately. And so I finish with I'm open to formal education if the opportunities come up, but I'm also perfectly content with grabbing the bull by the horns and just generating net profits. We're just going crazy. Both businesses was crazy at the time, but it shows you a little bit of growth from my side, which is I now know better. I now know that you can't serve two masters. It's just it you will you would have gotten much further in one thing than you can in two things at the same time. Whatever seems to be God's will, it is what we'll do. And so there was a part in there where I said a lot of the things that I planned fell through. There it is. All that being said, I echo that it's God's plan ultimately, and a lot of things I planned fell through and made room for bigger blessings. So ultimately, that was also a massive lesson that I had during that time of my life. Is this is God's will? Nothing we can do about it. In terms of, I really pushed hard to make certain things happen, and they just didn't. I really pushed hard to manifest certain things, to create certain things in my life. I made phone calls, like I sent the tough emails, I had some tough conversations, um, and I was perfectly prepared to go down a certain route. And it was a very tough route, Like in retrospect, obviously you look at the things we've been able to do and that we're continuing to position ourselves to grow into, and you'd think that it was smooth sailing the entire time and everyone was always on board and everything was just blessed. That's not true. I had to have some very, very tough conversations about what direction I was going to go in my life. I had to have some very tough conversations with myself. Because the thing is, to be honest with you, I didn't know. Like I was fully open. As you can see, that's my private journal. I'd never intended that I was going to do a series called Founders Journal to kind of provide this. I was literally that was never meant to see the light of day in terms of from a writing perspective. So you can understand that I was genuinely like debating with myself, going back and forth, deliberating. I did a lot of research on both sides. I was like, okay, what are the pros and cons? What are the pros and cons of this formal education shit for me specifically? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm very uniquely positioned in that I already have the skills that I want to bring to the marketplace, and I continue to learn. Like I know what books to read. I know where to go for the sources of the knowledge that I'm looking for, and those are real conversations with real executives. That's really, like researching using the various different AI tools that I know how to use, and leverage specifically to achieve what I want to achieve. Like that's that's where I'm learning right now. So I'm not saying that, okay, no, just because I'm choosing this route, I'm no longer going to learn. It's like, no, I have to learn more. I have to learn faster, and I'm learning the hard way. Like really, like I'm like when you make a mistake, you get a bad grade. When I make a mistake, I lose money, I lose time, I pay with my life. So it's a completely different game. So you have to be really sure about where you're going, what you're doing, and that you want this life. And so I was really deliberating at that time. But like I said, I did make the hard emails, I did make the hard calls, I did have the tough conversations of, but you said, I didn't ask. You said, listen, you shouldn't be taking this route. You should be, sponsored. You should have a bursary. You should have this. You should have that. Especially at the level that you're coming at, doing this, and that. This shouldn't be paid for out of pocket. I'm like, okay. I hit you up. I say, let's have a conversation. Let's barter. What? What are we saying? What's the offer? What's the deal? Let's make a deal. Right? Boom. Shot down. That wasn't easy to take. Wasn't a nice conversation to have. But cool. Not even shot down. Ignored. Apply for this. Apply for ignored. Cool. This side, contracts are coming in. The platform's taking off. A little bit of money coming in, and it hit me like, man, I have everything that I need, and the capacity that I need to build is like, and I need an audience. I need to connect with people. I need to network. I need to have conversations with executives. I need to be known in the marketplace. Like the same, I was like, the same work that I'm going to end up having to do after this 3 years, whatever, however long, is the same work that that I could be starting to do now and building that sweat equity. And I look back at the past year and I was like, but okay, what have I really learned specifically from this setting that I wouldn't have gotten outside of it? And factor in the opportunity cost of what could I be doing with this time within this budget that one ends up like paying for being in that situation, as well as, so it's the time, as well as what am I going to get from extracting myself from that environment? Because I will admit I tend to be a product of my environment in that way, in terms of, and I have no one to blame but myself for it, but I really do tend to, get lost in the sauce a little bit. Because I mean, I'm a cool dude. I'm a cool dude. The gents like to go out with me. The ladies like to stay in with me. It's something that's existent, and I tend to get lost in that. And so, what will I gain from being away from that environment and focused on these things and knowing these avenues that I want to explore? And sometimes you have to make some tough decisions. And what came out of this is a lot of learnings that built and are continuing to build the foundation of the way that I lead my life and the way that I live my life. Yeah, that was entry five, man. Founders Journal. Um, if you're a marketer in Port Elizabeth, campaigns are coming towards you. You don't even need to click anything. But yeah, if you're an entrepreneur slash professional, Legacy Hub, link to the platform is down below. It's free. There's some really cool free tools down there, but we're going to continue to spice that offer up and eventually get you guys on there. What else? Subscriber, appreciate you. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. It really, really does. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank you for watching. Uh, Wait, let me clip this. Yep. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I've been Sage, standing on business. Signing out.